Welcome to a football show Wednesday edition, joint practice edition, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. I am Braden Gall, and that is the great and amazing Nick Suss, reporter for the Tennessean, live from the communist hellscape that is the Bay Area. Nick, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, come check out the epitome of luxury that is my Fremont hotel room. As you guys can tell, it has wall, and on the other side of me has other wall. I'm living it up.
I also see a ceiling.
There is a ceiling. There's a ceiling right above me.
Did you pay extra for that?
There's also window, and bed. I'm living it up, you guys. Absolutely right. Crushing it. I drank my barely off-brand water bottle that I got. It's incredible, you guys.
I am very jealous of you telling me that you were walking 2 miles in like beautiful weather in the middle of freaking August, while I literally cannot go outside for more than 5 seconds in Middle Tennessee. Daniel says the Bay Area rules. I lived there for 6 years. I agree. I was kidding. I hope everyone can can tell. I'm a part of the overreactive crowd, so it's my favorite time of year. That's right, Bustin' Diamonds. Stay there. I stay right there where you are. I appreciate that. Greenhouse, morning. Good to see you. A double dose of sus. There we go. You were already up and on a radio show today?
Yeah, that's why I told you that this would not be a problematic time, because I'd already agreed to do that. And if you guys want a quadruple dose, if this hour is not enough, I will also be doing a different show on this network a little bit later, where there might be a little bit more yelling.
You're hitting Stillman later today, too?
And then I will also be doing another show on 102.5 with our friend Adam Vigan.
What a glutton for punishment.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Multiple walls and a roof. Can't hide money.
Would you guys believe me if I told you this hotel room has an in-unit AC as well?
Is there next thing you're going to tell me there's a bathroom in there?
Oh, barely, but yes, there is a bathroom in here. It's one of those, I don't know if you guys have this problem. This is just travel humor for people who travel too much, but like, it's one of the hotel rooms where the bathroom door can't stay open. It's an automatic shut door.
It drives me crazy.
And like when I'm just bringing stuff from my duffel bag into the bathroom, I put too much stuff in my hands, and then I can't open the door, and I end up defeating the purpose of having the duffel bag in the first place. And
while we're telling completely meaningless and hilarious stories about life and experiences, a little bit of travel too here. We were pulling up into, so my wife's family all goes to the beach like they used to almost every year. Less so now that a bunch of the older generation have kind of passed away. And so it's kind of on us to put it together. We did one a couple of years ago. This is like 2021, 2022. It was one of the first times we had done it coming out of the pandemic. And you'll realize why I'm telling the story. We pull up at the beach house, which has been kind of paid for by all the patriarchs, the uncles, and like, we're the oldest cousins of the group, so we kind of chip in, and so like we all pull in, and we're sort of like the first people there, because old people who buy the house and rent the house are the first people to get there. All the young people show up much later and whenever the hell they want. And we pull up, and my wife's uncle, God rest, he's wonderful. He's a lovely man. We pull up in our Subaru Outback, and he looks at us and he goes, you guys get a new car? And we were like, yeah. And he goes, can't hide money. And I don't know why that just is all, like, my wife and I say it all the time now about everything, but only when it's a wall and another wall and a ceiling, and people are just like, can't I? It's the funniest thing. His son drives a $50,000 truck, and he's telling us that we can't hide. I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, I don't know if that matters to anybody, but I only use that phrase, can't hide money, now with my wife when it's about things that are clearly absurdly not expensive.
One more. You want to do one
more?
It's
a station wagon. No one's ever looked at a station wagon and been like, look at these 1%ers.
Speaking of 1%ers, one more travel thing, and then I promise we will talk about the Tennessee Titans. Chime off in the comments if you would feel the same way. Yesterday, I did not rent a car for this trip, so I was doing a ride share back to my hotel after practice yesterday. And the ride share that picked me up was a self-driving Uber. And there was somebody in the front seat driving, ostensibly. Do I tip that person for sitting silently in the car with me? Like, the service rendered here.
Why didn't you take a Waymo?
That's my point, is that, like, the service rendered is I called a driver because I wanted, like, a human to drive me somewhere.
Why?
And it's just force of habit. I like talking to people.
Humans are the problem with cars.
The same reason that I, on the connection flight from LA to San Jose on Monday, talked to the guy next to me for 90 minutes instead of putting my headphones in. I like people.
I do too. I'm a chatterer with the Uber, but I always like feel it out, like, hey, is this guy going to reciprocate, or is this somebody I don't want to talk to?
But like the question at hand here is like, was a service rendered?
Yeah, they drove the car. Yeah.
But they didn't drive the car. They sat in the front seat of the car.
Oh, they didn't.
Self-driving.
Oh, I missed that part of the story. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a self-driving Uber.
Why is somebody in the front seat of the car?
It's a Tesla. So they were like sitting there in self-driving mode.
Oh, I definitely don't trust Teslas to drive by themselves yet.
But nevertheless, it was in self-driving mode. I watched the guy have his hands on his lap.
Hang on, you called an Uber?
Yes.
I would tell the person to drive the car. Like, I'd be like, dude, why don't you drive? You definitely don't tip. Why won't you? Why? So the guy's face and name was on your Uber selection process, and he just didn't drive the car?
Yeah, it was self-driving. And like, the reason I knew
they're not self-driving that well. Was it good at least?
The reason I knew that is like 10 seconds into the drive, he's like playing with the screen, putting my hotel address in, and a guy on a e-bike, because this is the Bay and I got to talk about Teslas and e-bikes. A guy on an e-bike is going the wrong way down the road and comes straight at the car, and the car swerves. And he turns around to me and
killed a child.
He turns around to me. He's like, pretty cool, right? This is pretty strong. That I didn't even need to see that. I wanted to look at him and be like, you should have seen that. You're an Uber driver.
Oh, my God. Definitely don't tip that. The whole point of the Waymo, in my mind, is that it's spotless. It's already set to my needs and wants, and I don't have to talk to anybody, and it drives safer than anybody that's actually driving. So that's my theory. Here's the... Bustin says, I once stayed in a hotel room with no windows. It messed with my mind and perception of time greatly. That's called a cruise. That's why I don't like going on cruises, because staying in internal rooms with no windows on a cruise is the worst. Okay. I travel too much, says Daniel Caribbean. Stayed in a fancy Mexico City hotel last year, and our bathroom was like a stall. My wife could hear everything. Don't say anything about Mexico City around PK. He turns into like an old Williamson County bro when you talk about Mexico City. He's like terrified of Mexico City. I can't wait to go. Anyway,
that's how my dad is with Cuba, for what it's worth.
I want to go to Cuba so bad.
It's very, very funny that like he has like 3 rules for my sister, and one of them is you can never go to Cuba. It's very strange.
We are such products of our generational upbringing.
Yeah.
Sus is a suspicious predicament. Is in a suspicious predicament. I would be floored if I got into an Uber where I paid for someone to drive me and they weren't going to drive. Like, I don't trust Teslas yet. They're great cars, but I don't trust Tesla under, self-driving yet. Okay. Anyway, we're 8 minutes in. We still haven't talked about the Titans. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I want to know later on, what could actually happen on Thursday night that would either change your opinion or that would mean something important for the season. Because I want to know what actually could happen on Thursday. Not like Will Levis will get reps and then he could get traded or cut for less or more than we thought. I want to know about general concerns, areas of concern, and bright spots from the practice. The O-line, of course, scuffling. I want to know what you got out of that. Cam Ward and Carnell Tate. Also, I think the broad takeaway here is about progress, but still a long way to go, I think, as you look at the title of the episode there. But I want to start with general vibes first and foremost here. Before we do that, Sinkers Beverages. I was just up there yesterday restocking my THC beverages, checking out the bourbon selection, looking at the picking up some Yazoo Hef and some East Nashville Beer Works IPAs and some Tennessee Brew Works, Hippies and Cowboys. You got to stock the fridge with those good local brews. You can get that all from the award-winning retail beer fridge. Enormous bourbon selection. They've got a huge wine stash as well. They've got really good tequila. They've got a really knowledgeable staff. It is award-winning for a reason. 5 straight years. Go sign up for the in-crowd. They'll track your like what you like, and they'll reach out to you and be like, hey, we got an event coming up with tequila on Thursday. We know you like tequila. Why don't you come by and check it out? So they're just all about taking care of their customers. So check out Sinkers Beverages. And, of course, as I said on Monday, great to see everybody out on Saturday. Had over like 400 people there. Made the event a great celebration for Sinkers Beverages. So thank you guys for coming out. Okay. All right. PK said this on his show, and I've been kind of thinking about it for a while because I thought the first day of training camp, I felt something different about the energy, the professionalism, the execution, the purpose with which people were moving and functioning and operating. And it's a lot of times you get those feelings at a training camp, Nick, and you just don't know if it's real. You don't know. You kind of have a feeling, and then like you came up to me, and we've talked about this on the show, but like your feelings are on the secondary, right? Like you kind of just get feelings, and then you have to like figure out how real it is, or figure out what part of it is real. And one of the things that I noticed last year that we all talked about was how like lethargic and lackadaisical and just off the vibes were at training camp. The energy levels were very strange and odd, and you don't know if it's real. And PK made a point on his show that essentially he realized it was a very real problem when they went to practice at Atlanta last year. And yesterday is the first real competition this new team with the new coaching staff and the new players have faced. Practice, I would argue, is more important than the game on Thursday night. So how different are the vibes today, if different at all, than last year's camp through this point when they were going to Atlanta? And how much do you validate those feelings? Do you see those feelings? Did you get those feelings from being at practice against another team on Tuesday of this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna draw a line here between conversation about vibe and conversation about production, actuality, reality, what I saw yesterday. And I'm going to start here. On Friday, when we were all on the field for the blue and white scrimmage, Carnell Tate made a really impressive one-handed catch on the first offensive drive, I believe. The Titans had the video of that moment out on social media before the scrimmage was over. They'd edited it. They'd put it out in the world while we were still out on the field. It took about an hour.
I think you can get PK and me and a bunch of other media people in that shot too, if you watch carefully.
On Sunday, 2 days later, the Titans had a red zone focused practice, and Carnell Tate had back-to-back plays or back-to-back routes where he went over receivers or went over DBs and caught touchdowns. And again, before practice was over, and this was toward the end of practice when it happened, before practice was over, the Titans had that video out to the world. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok,
and yesterday they had Xavier Restrepo.
Yesterday, the Titans did not put a single photo or video from the practice out until 4.5 hours after practice concluded. So about 6.5 hours after practice started. That is not to say that the practice was an abject disaster. That is to say that the best stuff that happened at that practice was not going to get people excited. Like when they finally did put a video out, the first thing they put out was of a play where Brock Purdy completed a pass to Deebo Samuel. Like their first highlight was still a successful play for the 49ers where the Titans had a nice hit afterwards. And I think that kind of is the lead in to the way I'm going to differentiate between vibe and on-field success. Because the vibe here is the Titans are playing physical and the Titans like that they're playing physical. And there is an intentionality and there is a pride in playing physical. And I get that. When you are big, strong football guy and you pride yourself in being bigger and stronger and more football guy-y than the guy across from you, if you have a regime come in and say, we are going to beat the snot out of the people across from us, go do that. Yeah, you're going to like that. You as the player are going to have a good feeling about that. And it's like a football movie trope or a sports movie trope of, I think it's Longest Yard I'm thinking of, where you finally get the first moment where the prisoners get to play against the guards, and like first play they're throwing punches and first play they're hitting people because they just got to get the aggression out. And that's the point.
Even in jail.
And like, I think that what I saw yesterday was an extension of the Titans have been preaching and prioritizing fast and violent for 8 months now. And they went out and they played fast, and they went out and they played violently. And Yeah, there is no disputing that what I saw yesterday was fast and violent. So the vibe was pretty good because they did what they set out to do. But at no point in the indoctrination of fast and violent is there ever an acknowledgement that teams don't win because of speed and violence. Teams win because they play football the best. And if you play fast and if you play violent, oftentimes a consequence of that is that you play football really well. But there's not necessarily a connection between those two. There's a way that you enforce your will, and there's a way that you grind teams down, and there's a way that you are going to feel stronger at the end of the game because of it. And I really think that is good. But yesterday was a clinic in you can play fast and violent as much as you want. And if the other team hits you over the top for a long pass, the fast and violence didn't work. You can play fast and violent as much as you want, but if your left tackle's throwing a punch, he's going to get kicked out of the game. Like, I know this is a circuitous way of saying it, but like, I think fast and violent is a great philosophy for how to raise the vibe, how to make people feel like they are playing a brand of football that they want to be playing and get the buy-in and get the connection and get the chemistry, which all really, really matters. But you also need to have a philosophy that's going to translate to successful moments. And that did not show as much yesterday. It's not to say that it won't show later. That's not to show that it won't show next week. But I think that everything I see points toward, I don't know, man. They were what they said they would be, and they were still worse than a really good football team.
You sort of got to my second topic with that answer. You didn't really answer my first topic.
I thought I did. I'm sorry.
The answer is yes, it's very different than last year, I feel like, is what you're saying. If I'm putting words in your mouth, because that's how I felt. I wanted the practice to confirm that if the practice last year is the thing that confirmed that the vibes were off, I wanted the practice this year to be the thing that confirms that the vibes are different. And I realize I'm using vibes the way a typical Gen Zer does with, or whoever's behind millennials. I don't remember which one's which.
That's correct.
Where they're typically just everything is vibes. All the things are vibes. The date was vibes. The dinner was vibes. The movie was vibes. It's all vibes. That's a catch-all term. And I agree. Like fast and violent, like when you say that as a football coach, you don't need to say like, well, you also need to have instincts and you need to have intangibles and you need to have proper technique and you need to have great scheme and you got to have good timing and you're like, all that's, I agree. That's what leads to success. But I felt like it was different already. And I wanted to know, did the practice solidify that it is significantly different? Now, what does that ultimately mean for the team moving forward? That's the next subject, which you've already kind of gotten into, which is, from what I read, obviously I wasn't there, from what I've listened to with Paul and read from you and read from him and looked at the broad picture of the entire detail of all the things that happened, my personal takeaway, based on also having seen every practice so far, but outside of like one, is that this team is better. They are making progress. They are pointed in the right direction, but they are clearly not competitive with good football teams yet. That they have a long way to go. And that is a very vague, general way to sort of take vibes and put words to it, right? And so it is kind of the same conversation here. But that's what I want to, I want to confirm in your vision of this, that it is different than last year. Like the words I would use are sort of like intentional, professional. Like those are kind of the words I would use, energetic. Like those are the things I would use that were different about camp last year at this stage. But we didn't really, like we felt that way last year, but we didn't really know. And the Atlanta practice was the first time. I wasn't there for that one either. The Atlanta practice is when a lot of you guys who were there say, oh, this is off. Something's really actually wrong with this. Yeah. Whereas this feels like a validation of the direction they're going in. Like they're not good as San Francisco, and they're not going to compete for the Super Bowl or win the division. But like this is validation that they are going in the right direction, that the vibes are back, and that the professionalism and the energy is there. Does that make sense? I
did some bad talking there, and I skipped past the point, a connective tissue point that I was trying to make, because I don't listen to myself when I talk, and I'm glad that you guys are listening. So When I would compare the major difference in vibe or intentionality or whatever you want to call it from last training camp to this training camp, the major difference that I would say is the message that this regime is peddling is being embraced by the players. Whereas the message that the last regime was peddling was not necessarily being embraced universally.
Yeah.
There were some people who bought in.
What was the message?
Together, essentially. It was everybody like each other because we're going to know each other, because when you know each other, again, if you want to hear people talk about how Callahan's philosophy last year in off-season team building exercises ended up being unfruitful, go listen to literally any show that any Titans reporter did between like April and October of last year. But I think that this year there is from what I've seen, fairly universal buy-in from the players to fast and violent, because fast and violent's pretty easy to buy into. You get, as a kid, one of the things that attracts you to football is the speed of the sport and the violence of the sport. What does your daughter say her favorite thing about watching football is?
She likes watching boys hurt each other.
Yeah, that's the appeal a lot of the time, is that, like, I remember being in the high school locker room as a kid and having arguments about what feels better, hitting somebody or getting hit by somebody. Like, the football player mentality is like very much rooted in let's go play fast, let's go play violent.
Yeah.
And I think
the only way, like, I liked getting hit because I was an offensive player, I was a receiver, and I liked my first hit. After that first one, I didn't like them. But the whole idea that proves your point is the fact that, like, oh, I needed to get hit to get woken up and be in the game. You know, you hear that about quarterbacks a lot, right? Though, I like getting the first hit out of the way. Yeah. Like, the only human that would be like, yes, please destroy me, and now I'm ready to go, is the only person that would ever say that is like a boxer or a football player, maybe a hockey player. I don't know.
And so I do think, if we're talking about the vibe with heavy scare quotes around it,
right,
that's the difference, is that the players, instead of being told we're going to teach you how to pull in one direction, want to pull in one direction, because the direction they're being asked to pull in is a direction they would want to be pulling in. Now, that goes back to the second point I was making of they're all pulling in the same direction, but it is unclear if pulling in that direction will actually benefit the team. That's where we have to get into actual football analysis.
It's right. And I think that ultimately is what we are all trying to figure out, and really doesn't happen until you have games, because your record is your record at the end of the season. But what we're trying to figure out, and we're going to talk about this with the game on Thursday night, is like, what is real and what matters. And I can sit there on the sidelines and be like, man, this feels different, or it feels good, or it feels bad, or there's something different about this. But you have to find ways to validate, prove or disprove your feelings, your thesis, your vibe. And a joint practice is the best possible way you can do that in training camp. And frankly, it might be the only way you can do that in training camp, because the preseason games aren't even really great at deciding that stuff. So I think ultimately, and I think one of the things I think about with the Niners as just a football fan is I think the Niners are the kind of thing you want to become as an organization. And it's not that you want to do all the exact things that they do, you know, the Brandon Ayuk saga, or draft Christian McCaffrey, or, draft Mr. Irrelevant who turns into a $200 million quarterback or whatever. It's that they are consistently giving themselves a chance through smarts, through hard work, and through sort of stability and culture, that the Niners are going to compete at a high level most years. Sometimes maybe not because of injuries or a quarterback change, or you have to transition rosters, but like, they are almost always going to have a chance to be good every year. And some years they'll have really great teams, and some years they'll have average teams, and you don't know exactly how it works. But I feel like that is the goal of being a good football organization, is sort of being where you can make changes, you can go through transition, but your culture, your identity, your play calling, your smarts, your hard work, all that stuff stays put all the time. And certainly that starts with a Kyle Shanahan and a John Lynch. But like, at the end of the day, that's the kind of organization I think you want to become. And I know they haven't won the Super Bowl, right? I know that Seattle has jumped them. I know the Rams have jumped them. I know They've lost to the Chiefs and Mahomes, but they're one of the best organizations in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and let's use the Niners as a pretty interesting case study here, because I think that they are proof that sustained success in the modern NFL does not mean perfection. And that sustained success in the modern NFL does not mean even batting 500. Like, there is an argument to be made that the Trey Lance trade was the worst move any NFL team has made in the last decade. Like, giving up multiple first-round picks to select a quarterback who never ends up being a franchise player, never ends up being a starter.
Did he even start a game?
He started maybe 3 or 4 games, but he was a guy who never panned out, trading, I can't remember, was it 3 first-round picks to move up and get him? That has been disastrous. You can look at the Brandon Ayuk saga that you alluded to. That has been a really, really bad situation. You can look at the way that they mishandled Deebo Samuel the first time he was on the team and created contract situations there and frustration.
There's such a good spot to be that he came back.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that he came back.
And you can go through and look at some draft picks that they've made. John Lynch's first draft pick was Solomon Thomas. He picked him 2nd or 3rd or top 5 overall, and he did not pan out to be a
good player, though.
He didn't pan out to be an edge rusher worthy of a top 5 pick. Yeah. He turned out to be okay. And you can look at some of the other draft picks they've made and some of the other free agent signings they've made. The 49ers aren't thriving because they're doing everything right. And they're not thriving because they are immune to controversy. And you can say the same thing about the Steelers for all these years, the paragons of consistency, but they've also dealt with the Big Ben saga and the Le'Veon Bell saga and the Antonio Brown saga and the George Pickens saga. And you can say the same thing about the Patriots, and we know all of the off the field.
I mean, my Green Bay Packers are in that conversation.
Yeah, you can take all of these things and look at the best franchises in the NFL. They are not immune to making mistakes. They just have a culture and have an identity, and they know how to recover and insulate themselves from the mistakes they've made. Yeah, and I know this is a digression, but I think that if you look at when the Titans started going downhill, the issue wasn't that they made mistakes. The issue was that they were not prepared to insulate themselves from their mistakes. And so when you talk about the 49ers being aspirational, that would be the point I would point to. And now we can go back to talking about the present tense.
No, I agree. I think it takes, you cannot overlook the Shanahan Lynch of it all. Yeah. Like, could Vrabel and Robinson had been that if ownership, fans, everybody kind of stayed the course, if they had gotten the AJ Brown deal done? Me and Jared talked about this on Monday. I don't want to rehash that, but I think there's absolutely a world that if you just stay the course and let JR get back to being JR, and that they maintain a consistent thing. Do I think they win a Super Bowl? I don't know. I don't know about that. Who knows? But if Vrabel was the head coach and John Robinson was the GM, I think they would have been a lot better off. Up until this year, where I like the Borgonzi-Sala combination. I mean, everything until this year, I think would have been better. You went the devil you didn't know, and it was worse. So yeah. I think the stability and the culture and the buy-in and the expectation setting, and it does take good football smarts, right? Shanahan is a great offensive mind. Lynch knows talent, but makes a ton of mistakes. You are not, no organization is immune to bad decisions. All of them, college, pro, it doesn't matter. But I do think their type of organization is the thing you should be focused on. And I think it's a great point. And it was what I was trying to say, and you did it more, you articulated it in a better way, which is you don't have to win the Super Bowl to be a great organization. That's the gist of this. But if you are a great organization, you're giving yourselves a chance every year to compete. When things go well, you've got a shot. And I think that's what San Francisco has done. And man, they've come close. They've come real close. While the rest of their division, kind of jumps up and down and goes back and forth, is more volatile. They've won those Super Bowls, but they've also had a lot more volatility. Okay, so specifics on the practice. Sinkers Beverages. Everybody support Sinkers Beverages. Please support Tennessean. Listen to all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network. But get into some of the specifics here. You got the O-line fighting. You got Cam Ward and Carnell Tate being largely held in check for most of the day. What stood out to you on the field that actually mattered to you? We'll start with Cam Ward and the offensive line. Those seem to be the ones that got the most headlines. Is that correct in your mind, or was there defense?
There.
Okay,
we can start there. I thought that Cam Ward, and I said this earlier, and I said this in my writing, and I'm repeating myself, but I just guess I like annoying people. At its best yesterday, the offense looked like the exact dream of what I think Brian Callahan and Mike McCoy wanted last year. First and second down, this team was incredibly ahead of schedule. I really liked the way the run game looked on early downs. I really liked the way the play action passing looked on early downs. There was some real good use of that. You know, that annoying play that every team runs that's just effective, so you have to run it, of like play action bootleg, tight end sneaks out, you dump it off to the tight end, you get 4 yards, you run another play. Yeah. They were really effective on that type of concept. Not specifically that play every time. Sometimes it was the back. Sometimes it was a receiver. But like the ability to play action, get out of the pocket, create some space for yourself, throw the ball 5 yards, set up a second and short. They were good at that. They were good at getting push. I thought Tajay Spears looked good yesterday. I think Nick Singleton has looked good all camp, and he looked pretty good yesterday.
It sounds like he got some elevated reps with Mullings being out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. But with I think when people are complaining about the way the offense looked yesterday, I would say Cam was efficient on the easy passes and didn't do very much to impress me on the passes where he needed to step up. His first intermediate attempt was a really well threaded and leveled pass to Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't want to take away from that. His second, yes, Peter, thank you for advocating for Shark. We should run Shark all the time.
Sounds like that's the play you're talking about. Like that one play that's really annoying, just that works great. Shark.
And then there was an out route to Carnell Tate that was where he got hit hard by Ronaldo Green, and that started the first fracas of the day. There were some good passes, but for the most part, it looked a little bit to me like later in the practice, Cam was pressing a little bit to make the bigger throw. There was a miscommunication throw on like a little play action misdirection turnaround pop pass that he didn't have communication with the receiver and messed up. There were two plays to Carnell Tate where I thought Tate ran his route open and had leverage against his DB, and Cam missed him. There was a scramble drill play where Calvin Ridley ended up getting open and Cam underthrew him. There were mistakes, but not like defective team destroying mistakes. I wrote it and I'll say it again. If I had to put like a who won on the Titans offense versus the Niners defense, I'd give the Niners like a 60-40 edge. But even then I might go like 58-42. It wasn't massively decisive. I think the Niners bested them, but I think the Titans got a lot of what they wanted out of it.
Yeah.
But there was also like a 10-play stretch in the middle where the offensive line collapsed. Well, and I think people are going to draw, the O-line was bad the entire day. Like if you run 70 snaps and the offensive line is bad on 10 of them, you had a bad offensive line day. But if all 10 of them were like centralized in like a 12 to 15 play period, I don't know what happened. And so I'm not exonerating, but I'm also going to say things got weird for a little bit, and Cam was really, really running for his life for just a really short period. The
Niners had one of the worst pass rushes in all of the NFL last year. Is that still a questionable group this year, or is it the Titans O-line, or is it the Niners D-line being better? What's the readout on that?
Man, I don't know. Again, it's not a big name group, and Nick Bosa wasn't out there, and like you're not getting beat by capital D dudes.
Yeah.
But Raheem Morris is a really good defensive coach, and you give them credit for scheming stuff up. And again, the Titans offensive line might have been playing a little bit over emotional. It was during that 10-play stretch when Dan Moore got ejected. There were, I guess, a series of moments or a series of situations where the Niners either got in the Titans O-line's head or had an edge, and whatever you want to say it. But when I close my eyes and try to think about what I saw, and I will admit, everybody divides their attention differently at these joint practices, and I was watching the Titans defense more closely than I was watching the Titans offense. I had 60-40 split, 65-35 split, but when I think about the pressure that was happening, I remember more pressure coming off of the edges, and I remember more pressure causing Cam Ward to retreat backwards. But I don't necessarily remember all that many plays where it was, oh, one guy very clearly got a sack here. It was much more a wave of pressure than it was a single breakdown.
Okay. All right. All right. They are not your lead, though, is what you just said. So what is your lead?
I was disappointed by the secondary. I think that the secondary to me...
Nick Suss pet project.
I think that the secondary to me was the major takeaway of the day. I think that when you look at this 49ers offense, it's very easy to look around and say, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Well, Kittle isn't practicing, and McCaffrey wasn't practicing, and Mike Evans wasn't doing teamwork, and Deebo Samuel was fairly limited in teamwork. And I was seeing DeJon Stribling, and I was seeing Demarcus Robinson just absolutely gash the Titans over the top.
Yeah, I was wrong about that on Monday. I said, I think the secondary could have a big day against a bunch of, non-starting pieces.
And I am not going to, to Ryan's comment here, I'm not going to get worried about one day of practice. I think I put this in a video I did for the Tennessean. If it's a 1 to 10 on the panic meter, I'm still at 3 or 4. I'm not sitting here saying that
they shouldn't be better than San Francisco 49ers. They should not be better than them.
I am not at all saying that this is worth frantic fear.
Big story. Defending Super Bowl champions better than Tennessee Titans. Breaking.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen next week?
But so all of that to say, when you asked me what the headline was, I know I have to put 2 caveats here. I know I have to say, number one, yes, Kyle Shanahan knows Robert Saleh's defense. And that made it a little bit easier for him to know how to push the buttons. And number 2, yes, there are certainly times during training camp when the defensive line would have made a hit or pressure that would have forced a quarterback to adjust and would have made a play less open than it ended up being. And so I'm going to say both of those caveats because I understand both of those are true. I think the Shanahan knowing Saleh's defense thing is very unimportant.
They all know each other's offenses and defense. Every single one of them knows every single other one's offense and defense. I think that's
a little bit overblown, especially when Saleh and Gus Bradley like to brag about how they haven't changed anything in 10 years.
Right. I do think that there are certain things that you may love as a play caller on offense that you are very good at teaching that lines up well against a particular coach's defensive style or vice versa. And that could lead to more success against an XYZ opponent. There's certain players that when they match up, like one guy just always gets the better of the other guy. It doesn't mean that other guy is not great. Sometimes there's that kind of lineup, but there are no tricks or secrets. Yeah. There's nothing. I mean, pull and pin is not a thing. It's not a new thing. It's an old football technique that they're just bringing back now that everyone's using. It's not, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that all of this builds up to me saying, to my untrained eye, just one person, I'm sorry that I'm just one person, I thought Amani Hooker had a very rough day.
Ooh, that's bad.
I thought that Cordell Flott struggled. I thought that Alante Taylor struggled. I didn't notice as much of Kevin Winston, which I guess is a good thing. And I thought that Marcus Harris had up and down moments. These guys can't get beat over the top. That is just fundamentally the rule of football.
especially when you play 4 deep shell coverage traditionally in a solid
And
defense.
I don't know which plays would have been whistled dead. And I don't know which moments would have been different if John Franklin Myers was out there at full speed, if Jacob Martin was out there at full speed. There is so much to know. But I came away thinking, oh, okay, that's not what you want to see against a group of receivers that frankly would be competing for number 3 and number 4 reps on the Titans. And that to me should be the headline. It is one practice.
Okay.
I'm not ringing the alarm bells. Guys, you don't need to open the floodgates. It's okay. It was one practice.
Fire Robert Saleh?
Yeah.
Question mark?
I think it was Peter, not to pick on somebody, but if anybody's calling for Saleh's head tomorrow because they lose a preseason game, their fan card should be revoked.
I think like were they not kidding?
I again, if you just
he's kidding.
I imagine you're kidding, Peter, but like I think that this is what it is. But that to me was the headline, was that you guys have heard me on this show defend the secondary and talk about, well, the depth isn't a concern because if you think your 5 guys at the top are good enough, then just trust those 5 guys to be the 5 guys. I have my trust in that group has slightly diminished after one practice. And as much as that shouldn't happen, as much as one day shouldn't be able to diminish faith, I did see a little bit of reason for that.
Okay. Tony Adams, any thought that maybe Tony Adams gets more time, or is again that is an overreaction? I think Amani Hooker is your starting safety, so let's not go crazy here. But
yeah,
Adams is not a bad piece to have back there. I think he's solid.
There's also a part of me that wonders if Tony Adams is the insurance policy for Marcus Harris more than he's the insurance policy for Amani Hooker. He can be both, but the Titans don't have a true number 2 nickel on this team. Tony Adams is probably going to have to function in that role as much as he functions in the Hooker's backup role, and that would make it tougher to put Tony Adams as the replacement for Amani Hooker. Your next best option would probably be Kendall Brooks, who I've always liked as a rotational piece on this team. I don't necessarily know if he should be starting week 1 or anything, but that's probably the field of depth at safety right there.
Okay, what else on the actual practice here? We talked about O-line, we talked about Cam, we talked about Tate, we talked about the secondary. Any other areas of brightness that you could you could bring to the show for us? Before we talk about special teams and the matchup with San Francisco on Thursday night?
I thought Cody Barton had a good day. Good for Cody Barton. He had a couple of pass breakups. He had a nice tackle for loss on a read play on a Brock Purdy was rolling out. He threw back across his body.
Did any of the young, you already mentioned Kevin Winston. Did any of the younger pieces from last year's draft class or this year's draft class look out of place in terms of Carnell Tate has looked totally comfortable in place as wide receiver 1 against the Titans. Did Femi Oladejo look like he belonged on the field? It's not about looking great and proving that means something for the future. It's more about this person looked like you're saying Marcus Harris had an up and down day. That doesn't mean he looked out of place, that he looked overwhelmed, that he looked outmatched. I'm curious if anybody from last year's class or this year's class, whether that's Carmona, whether that's, you mentioned Singleton looking good. Did anybody look like you made a note and said, oh, that was concerning. That didn't look like an NFL player competing at the right level? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
I know what you're asking. I don't think so. I'm trying to think if anybody looked like they didn't belong. There was nobody that seemed to be an outlier. I was a little bit surprised, and I can't talk about actual strings. I can't talk about who replaces whom. I will say I was a little bit surprised when Jacob Martin and Cordell Flott went down, who the immediate replacements were. But nobody stuck out.
I've seen a couple of people comment about this, that the 49ers press corps is sort of just like, yeah, the Titans were way better than we thought they were going to be. Is that a vibe you're getting? Like, I don't read their stories. I don't know their information. So I have not seen that.
I did not get that vibe. And if it was, maybe it was a pat on the head, good for you. And I know that people in the Bay have a very strong fondness for Robert Saleh. And it is possible that they are seeing what they choose to see.
And I think PK said this in his pod where he was like, I've talked to some folks for the Titans that are around sort of film, meaning I read that as coaching staff and or scouting personnel or something, that they were quite pleased with how yesterday went down. Yeah. That they were, hey, we're not really worried about anything we saw yesterday. And so now is that spin? Maybe, but unlikely if it's just a chat off the record, like unlikely that kind of information is being distributed like that to kind of like get Paul to tell people on his podcast that it was good and that we really liked it. It's like, no, they probably just did what they wanted to do. They got a really good day of work in.
Yeah.
Are they doing joint practices with, it's not both of them, not both the Bears and Seattle. It's just Seattle, right? Or is it with both of them? Okay.
One day of both.
I think 3 really good teams with really talented football players, 3 joint practices will show you a lot about what this team is going to be. And to kind of wrap up this part of the conversation, which I think is very clear to me, while it is, an unclear take, it's very clear to me that this team has made progress. They are getting better. They have better players. The bottom half of the roster is better. Some of the star talent at the top of the roster is a little bit better. Cam Ward is better. The coaching staff is better. The trajectory is correct. And they have a long way to go to compete with the best teams in their division and in the AFC.
Yeah.
And as long as I think Titans fans use that framework, hey, we're thinking 6 or 7 wins, which is progress. If everything goes right, we could get to 8, maybe 9. If everything goes wrong, we could be at 3 or 4. I think that's the window you need to think about.
Yeah.
I don't think any rational fan thinks differently than that. But I also want to make space for fans who are like, I love the people who are like, man, I hope we're gonna win 10 games because I believe in us and I hope things work out for us. Like I do want to make space for that because that's not me and I don't understand that line of thinking. I just assume the Packers are going to suck every year, and then if they win enough games to make the playoffs, I'm like, cool. But like, I'm just like, nope, Jordan Love sucks, Matt LaFleur sucks, and like that's not true. But I'm the opposite, and that's because this job has killed every ounce of love and soul and light inside of my body.
And let me put a bow on this before we talk bigger picture. The thing we have to understand about practices is that it's almost kind of first law of motion type stuff, equal and opposite reaction of like, we can talk about the plays that were they sacks, were they not sacks? Do you know how I know that Jeffrey Simmons didn't have 5 sacks yesterday? Because nobody is ever going to have 5 sacks in a day. There were a lot of pressures that maybe would have been whistled for sacks. There were a lot of pressures that maybe could have been whistled for sacks. But also, quarterbacks behave differently when they know they can't get hit than they would in a game when they know they have to run for their life. So a lot of it was, oh, I know I can stay in the pocket and run through the play, so I'm going to stay here longer than I need to and try and find my reads downfield.
Yeah.
So in a game, what might have been a quarterback knows to escape through his backside A-gap, it became a quarterback stands in the pocket too long, and everyone's like, oh, that should have been a sack. Yeah. Would it have been a touchdown? I don't know. Would it have been a sack? I don't know. Everybody's behaving like they are in a practice. And that's why, like, again, do not raise the panic flag, but also acknowledge that Titans went out and had a disappointing to my eye performance by production, a very encouraging to my eye performance when it comes to cultivating the vibe we spent the first 20 minutes of this show talking about.
The first step in the new era is just a team looking like the thing they said they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they've done. And again, if you're talking about practice, the way you should analyze practice, in my opinion, is sort of like look at every rep you had individual team, 7-on-7, 2-minute drill, whatever it is, special teams, and just be like, was it a good rep or was it a bad rep and it could have been better? And that's it. That's kind of it. It doesn't matter if it's a touchdown or a sack or a first down or not. Now, I granted there are some moments in practice where they create a situation where you're trying to pass fail on an accomplishment. I get that. But at the end of the day, if you are an offensive lineman and you block your guy 42% of the time, then you're like, okay, that was a little below average practice. Like, I need to do a little bit better. If you block your guy 55% of the time, hey, I was more good than bad today. And I think that's all it is. It's just like some reps you're going to be great, some reps you're not, and I think people know that about practice. I'm trying to teach my daughter gets really upset with herself when she misses shots when they're practicing their PKs and stuff, and I'm like, that's why you're here for, man. Like, keep blasting, like, you just keep shooting. Yeah. Like, you are here to miss, you're here to make it, you're here to feel good about it, you're here to get the feel for what the foot's supposed to do to the ball when you're trying to go right, when you're trying to go left. Just keep shooting. Grind it out, man. Just keep going. You'll get better the more you do it. And that's all you're trying to teach them. Okay. So special teams here. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the show. I think this unit can be a top 5 unit in the league because every part of this unit is actually quite good, except for one glaring problem. They have a great return game. If you look at their coverage on both kick and punt, it's very good. Their punt, their net ratios of plus minus on average starting field position, very good. They've obviously got a great returner. I think they can be one of the best special teams in the league. They've got a really good coach for this. But you cannot be one of the best special teams units in the league if you cannot make field goals. It will cost you games, or at least maybe a game. They've worked out 4 different kickers. They only gave Joey Sly some short stuff yesterday, from what I gathered. How concerned are we about this? Because they were one of the worst teams in field goal percentage last year, and that is the one area that will keep this special teams unit from being a top 5 unit in the NFL.
I think when you say glaring weakness, that's probably an overstatement, but I also don't think that it's great right now. I think Joey Sly's...
I want to say they were 26th in the NFL in field goal kicking last year, Nick. That's bottom 5.
Where did they rank in number of attempts or percentage of attempts from 45 plus?
I'm digging it up. Just keep chatting.
Because I think that last year's numbers with Joey Sly were very much a function of a regime's overconfidence in their ability to win 3 points at a time.
They were 26th in the NFL with 80.6%. That means they missed 1 out of 5. That's just overall. That's overall. What do you want? You want
like 40 plus or 50 plus? How many kicks did they attempt from distance?
40 plus attempts. They were average. Between 40 and 49, they were average. They attempted 10, and they were 8 out of 10, so 80%. Actually, the same number there. But I don't know what league. The Houston Texans were 18 out of 18.
No, not
between 40 and 49.
So yeah, 50. The question I was asking is how many, not the percentage they made.
Right. They were 10, which is they were tied for 13th in the NFL in attempts between 40 and 49. You go to plus 50 plus, and they were second in the NFL with 14 attempts. Yeah. So they had 24 attempts of longer than 40 yards, which again, the Texans attempted 18 and they led the league in 40 to 49. The Cowboys led the league in 50 plus attempts with 17. So they were among the most attempted plus 50s.
Yeah. And that's what you're saying. That's going to skew your field goal percentage. Should they have been kicking so many 50 plus yard field goals? Jury's out. Should they have stalled after crossing midfield so many times last year? It was a bad offense. They stalled a lot of times. If you guys remember me on Twitter during football games last year, I really liked to keep track of how often they crossed the 50 and had no points to show for it, which was more than twice per game over the course of a season. That's too many times. Joey Sly, to my eye, bounced back fairly well yesterday. He was fairly accurate. I understand why the Titans are working out kickers to see what else is out there. I am going to be intrigued to see what this regime's philosophy is on going for it on 4th down when you are in 50 plus field goal range. I'm interested to see what this regime's philosophy will be on trotting out a kicker for a 61-yard attempt versus punting and pinning field position versus going for it on 4th and short. I think a lot of that will play into the Joey Sly narrative if he is in fact the Titans kicker. I wouldn't be shocked if they went out and got another kicker for the last week of camp to see what's out there. But I'm not going to be overly reactionary to what was last year a kicking situation that was exacerbated by an offense that put the kicking situation on display.
Here's a better, maybe this is a smarter way for me to distribute this information. The Cowboys led the league with 17 attempts of 50 plus or more. They had they were at 86% completion or field goal percentage. So they were significantly better overall while attempting more. Let's see here. The Vikings had 13 attempts from 50 or more. They made 11 of them and they kicked 94% on the year. The Texans kicked 93%. They had 13 attempts. Tampa Bay had 12 attempts at 84%. You got to go all the way down to the Saints, who attempted 12 kicks of 50 or more and had a 71% field goal percentage. They were one of the worst in the league last year. The Commanders were also below 80%, below the Titans, and attempted 11 kicks of 50 or more. There's also a lot of teams in here, Nick, that attempted a lot of long field goals that have a better field goal percentage.
Yes, and they have better kickers too. So I'm just saying it all goes in concert.
Of course. All right. Well, my overarching thought is just I think they could be elite. I think the thing that keeps them from being elite is the only area that is of weakness is the field goal kicking. And if you kick 87% this year, that still might make you a top 10 special teams unit because 87% would be an improvement by a pretty large margin, I feel like, on 80%. Okay. All right. What about Sinkers Beverages? Everybody go check out Sinkers Beverages. Real quickly, I want to know, is there a thing on Thursday night? And Paul and I will be back Friday morning, so we'll do a complete recap of the match. But like the question is there something that could happen that would actually change your opinion about a player, a unit, a defense, or an offense that you would sort of jot down as a story that you think, man, this is something we've got to keep watching, good or bad? Is there something that, I mean, if Joey Sly misses 4 field goals, that's, we could talk about that. But of on-field, regular NFL players, what is something that would actually matter? Give me an example of something that would matter to you, that you think would mean something about the regular season.
Don't think I'm going to let it slide that you said match Mr. Soccer over
here.
I
know, I did. Well, it's me and PK. It's me and PK. So, the game.
If the Titans get a good push off the edge, if the pass rush looks very strong throughout the game, first, second, and third units, I will count that as something that I think actually translates because of how much they're going to rotate at that group. If you see the second and third stringers get a push, that is probably an indication that they're going to have the depth they want at that spot.
And harder to see that without game action. Yeah, I agree.
If the first team offensive line puts up a clean sheet, to continue with soccer language, I will be fairly encouraged. If there is one play that is fun, like just fun, just a fun thing happens, I'm probably going to come out of it feeling good. Like offensively, if you have a big run or a big completion or a highlight play.
I think it's Nick Singleton, too, is the name I keep thinking is going to deliver that play.
Nick Singleton's playing well
against the third string defense.
I think Tajay had a really big run in the preseason last year. I think it could be him. He's always a guy who's a bit of a lightning plug, a spark plug, lightning bug in the preseason. Something like that. The main thing, as I alluded to, is going to be the pass rush. But those are some things that can actually woo me. Okay.
I like a good wooing on a Thursday night late. PK and I will be back on Friday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Read the Tennessean, nicksuss.com. Read the Tennessean for Nick Suss's work at the .com is what I meant to say. I'm thrown off here on a Wednesday. It's very strange.
I don't think I own the domain for nicksuss.com.
No, you should.
I have nicksuss.wordpress.com.
And it needs to be like exclusively just like SEC football, Titans football history, and Saturday Night Live blended together into a sitcom that is just the scripts. Yeah. You just write scripts.
Go to thesitcomologist.com if you want that. I do.
Is that your website?
I do own that domain, yes.
Oh my God. Okay. So overarching, like last thought here, closing thought. Make sure you go to Sinkers Beverages, great liquor store. serving the community for 40 years. They're just great people. Bluegrass up in Hendersonville, as well as their sister store. They do a great job. They keep winning awards for a reason, so you should support them. They're good local businesses. It's absolutely the thing you guys should be doing. Keep those dollars in the community and keep it rotating through the city and through your community. Like, more excited about team, less excited about team, as you expected for team. What is your broad takeaway? Is it match what we've been talking about all show? Just kind of put a bow on it for me.
You guys have listened to me long enough to know that excitement isn't necessarily my forte. So I won't say I'm more or less excited, because it takes a lot for me to get excited about anything. I will reiterate that I think that the Titans have a really good idea of who they want to be. And I am impressed that the Titans know their identity. I am less impressed by the Titans' ability to translate identity into on-field success, but maybe it would be asking too much to expect that of a team that has been together for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that's all good. I think that's a good way to put it, and a good way to put a bow on it. Look, we got a lot of other great shows across the network. We've got the Hot Read podcast covering the Titans, SEC Football Live with Trey Wallace and myself. You got the Gold Standard out on Wednesdays covering the Predators with me and Emma Lingen. You've got Club and Country covering Nashville SC. With this week, we're going to have Lucas Panzica, and we're going to have Ben Wright on that show. Ben Wright is the host normally with myself, so you can always check all these great shows out. As well, we do appreciate all your support. Check out Sinkers Beverages. Check out thetennessean.com. And then PK and I are back on Friday morning live with your answers and recap of what takes place in California. Last but not least, Substation, a thing, question mark?
I can't help but think the Substation would have been an awesome playable location in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I was just looking at it and I was hearing Superman by Goldfinger. I just
I was an SSX guy on PlayStation. The snowboarding game.
SSX3 is one of my favorite games as a child. I loved that game very deeply. But yeah, it gave the vibe of early 2000s X Games video game location.
Wasn't it built in early 2000s?
It might have been. But yeah, I was just looking at that. I'm like, yeah, I would rip a 360 ollie or whatever.
You've never ollied a day in your life.
Never. On a video game, I have, Braden.
You were a guard. What are we talking about?
On a video game, I
could never. It's so funny. I could never. I did some inline skating as a kid. I played hockey, ice and inline. I've also snowboarded a ton in my life, and I have never been able to ride a skateboard ever. It's just it's not something I can do. I don't understand it. I'm not a terrible athlete. I could never, as a kid, I could never do it. I don't understand.
First time I ever fractured a bone, it was because I was on roller skates.
Not rollerblades, roller skates.
What's the difference?
They're two different things.
No, but which one is which?
One is in a row, and the other one is roller skate. Four.
Okay, so in a
row.
They
function differently on.
What's the one that's in a row?
An inline skate. Inline.
Okay. Then I fractured my elbow on those.
Ow, that hurts. How old were you?
8.
That's a bummer. My wife fractured a collarbone a couple years ago on Labor Day, riding a tricycle down a hill.
Next show, we will list all of the different bones I've broken in my life. Come back next week. And,
I don't want to talk about it because I need to knock on something. I've only dislocated a thumb playing football. By the way, it was brutal. They popped it back into place at practice. It was nasty. It did not feel good. But I don't want to talk about how many bones I've broken because I don't want to jinx it. I'm 44 years old. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. You guys are great in the comments. Really appreciate it. Share the show. Thumbs up, notifications turned on. I know how many of our subscribers. We need to get to 4,000. So please subscribe. Get some other people to subscribe to the YouTube page. You got all kinds of coverage of Nashville sports, Tennessee sports on that thing there. But we need some more notifications turned on because I know what percentage of you have the notifications turned on. So please turn it on because in weeks like this, we're going to go live at different times, and we're going to try to have a set schedule when the season starts, but sometimes you got to adjust. So turn those notifications on, and turn on notifications for Nick Suss's Twitter account, I think, because you only tweet like a couple times a week, right?
Yeah, I'll give you guys the strategy. I tweet when I know I have something to say that nobody else has to say.
Yeah,
and so when I'm out here and there's only 3 or 4 of us reporting on it, I'm tweeting more.
That's right.
Because I have more to say that nobody else has to say.
So follow him on Twitter and and turn on his notifications.
And it's called X. Embrace it, Braden.
And nope, never going to happen.
It's called Twitter.
I'm an old man. Never going to happen. Unlike certain national reporters for ESPN, all of Nick's information is actual reporting and not just spoon-fed propaganda from NFL agents.
Yet.
Everyone has a price. For Nick, I'm Braden. Thanks for listening and hanging out. Peace and love, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.